Hey there, my friend. Welcome to another episode of the Contractor Click podcast. This is your host, Danny Barrera. What an honor I have here today to bring a warrior brother, Mr. Chris Breen, who's here to help you see how you can build a legacy for your business, for your life, with Legacy Decks Academy. Mr. Chris Breen brings a wealth of experience not only in running and growing a successful deck company, but also empowering other deck builders to be able to build a legacy for themselves and their families. Chris, how are you today?
Hey, Danny, doing fantastic. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show for sure, man. We're doing great over here in Greenville.
Beautiful, man. For our new listeners who don't know who Chris Breen is, man, give me the 80-20. What's the 20% they should know about you?
Oh man, I most of us start off with like what we do. I'm going to start off with who I am. Like at the core of it, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a leader, and ultimately, right now, currently, I'm leading not only my family but my businesses, and so I run a business called the Legacy Decks and Outdoor Living in Greenville, South Carolina. And about 2.5, 3 years ago, I found myself in a really weird place where that business didn't need me anymore.
Mm.
I wasn't doing any of the day-to-day operations. And so about 2.5 years ago, my wife and I, my queen and I, we felt pretty called to share the message. We figured it out. Like we cracked the code on scaling a deck business. And so we started the Legacy Decks Academy about 2.5 years ago, and we've been pretty much full time in that ever since. And we work with a bunch of deck builders across the country, from East Coast to West Coast, up into Canada, and just helping them to scale their business to a point where they can actually enjoy the lifestyle that most entrepreneurs get into business for in the first place.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's kind of the short version of it.
Incredible, man. So you've been in this business. What got you started in decks to begin with?
Yeah, so I grew up riding shotgun in my dad's van. He was a
Mm.
builder on the side. He was a firefighter full time, and then a builder on the side, like a lot of people do. And so I've just grown up around it my whole life. But the deck business specifically was kind of birthed out of the fact that I used to be a general contractor where I was all things to all people,
Mm.
and did that for probably 15 years before I decided, like, hey, it's really hard to, for me anyways, to scale something where, I've got to learn how to estimate a garage, a basement, a deck, a bathroom, a new home construction. And so I was like, man, I heard a coach tell me once, the riches are in the niches. And
Yeah.
so we got really clear about like what we wanted to do, and it was outdoor living, and specifically in the deck space.
Hmm.
And so about 8 years ago now, we decided to go all in on just one niche, which was super scary to have to say no to the bathroom and no to the fence. And the thing, like, we were going to be very specific in our approach, so that we could teach other people how to estimate, how to build, how to manage, how to order, because it was very specialized. So yes, that's kind of how Legacy Decks came to be about 8 years ago.
And did you start that with your queen, or was
Yeah.
that something that she joined you later on?
No, so we've pretty much for the last 20, 24, 25 years now. We've been married. It'll be
Wow,
23 years this year. Together for 27 years, which is crazy.
incredible.
I look a lot younger than I actually
Yeah,
am.
yeah,
So,
you definitely
uh,
do.
I'll be 46 this year.
Okay, yeah,
But Warriors, we live by code. We stay fit. We stay
right.
ready for war at all times. But
Yeah.
yeah, so she's been by my side the whole time. Like, we complement each other really well. The cool part about it is the partnership with my queen.
Hmm.
We're able to go to war and then go home, and occasionally there's some makeup sex, like the normal
Of course.
partnership. I don't think you get to have that. So
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
cool thing about having a queen.
That's the
So
best part about working together, I would say.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's great. It's special to be able to do life with the person that you love, and look, it brings its challenges, right? So, I hear a lot of guys that are in the trades. They're like, I could never imagine or see myself working with my spouse, and I would challenge. Well, that's who you chose to do life with, and I believe that, as you are in one area of your life, you get to bring that same person to another area of your life, and
Yeah.
they're not the same person as you, right? So if you're the driver, the CEO, etc., you tend to have a different dynamic, and I'm curious to see, how does that dynamic play in your life? How have you been able to build a life and build a legacy with your queen as you've worked together?
Yeah, so I think that we naturally are gifted in certain areas, right? Each and every
Yeah.
Danny, you're gifted in certain things. I'm gifted in certain things. The cool part about the dynamic with my wife Amy is that we're skilled in different areas. We have passions for different things, and so we kind of meet in the middle and agree on like what is she going to do, what I'm going to do, and we're able to ultimately like link arms and go faster and farther together than we could if it was just me solo, right? Like I am not super skilled in the financial end of things, in understanding the technology behind marketing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm good, I can handle it, but she is elite at those things.
Mm.
And so rather than having to hire someone, pay someone else, like I'm able to work with my queen. I'm able to keep that money in my kingdom,
Yeah.
and ultimately, the legacy of our life is so much more. So many of us attach like our identity to what we do, and so why not like bring your family into that? So, my kids are a part of this thing. It's a whole family operation. It's not just me going off and doing my thing. So yeah, it works really well for us.
Man, that's great. What does legacy mean to you?
Yeah, great question. So legacy for me ultimately is what you leave after you're gone, right? Like what do people say? What do people
Mm.
experience? What do people have in their life as a part of that's a small part of you that you left behind from being in their presence,
Hmm.
from leading them, from being a part of their life. And so ultimately that for me is the biggest thing. Like, yeah, my kids are part of my legacy. My team is part of my legacy.
Hmm.
But ultimately it's the impact that we have on the world that far exceeds when we're still physically in the world.
That's incredible. And when you hear the term freedom and what you coach your people on when it comes to Legacy Dex Academy, what does freedom represent for them? And what do you think that where should they experience freedom in their life? And how do you assist them in building freedom in their lives and businesses?
Yeah, so a ton of people come to me because they're trying to crack the code on the financial piece,
Mm.
right? Like, and they're like I was, 15, 20 years ago. Like, if I could just make more money, then I can have the life that I want.
Yeah.
Then I can have the time to invest in my body the way that I want to. I can have the time to be the husband that I know I'm called to be, the father that I want to be. Spend the time in the vacations and with friends. Like for me, freedom, it's a lot of things to a lot of different people, but ultimately, it's choices. It's
Hmm.
it's having the ability to just wake up and have the choice to what you're going to do today, right? Like I decided to come in here today and do some things at my office, have some phone calls, so on and so forth. But the reality is, like nothing relies on me that I have to be here. I could have made the choice to stay home today. I did make the choice to go to the gym this morning. And
Mm.
again, so it's choices. But ultimately, a lot of people when they look at freedom, it's two things. It's time, which you're not getting any more of, and it's money and what you do with those two things.
Mm.
And a lot
Hmm.
of people waste a lot of time trying to figure out the money thing, and the very first thing that I tell people, like to get freedom in your business, you've got to have freedom as the man or the woman that you are, right? So that means physically, spiritually, mentally, relationally, right? In our language, body being in balance. You
Yeah.
got to get the body being in balance and shape before the business is going to go anywhere. And I tell my people this, like, you got to work on the business man before the business plan. And so I kind of trick
Mm.
people into the doors of the academy with like, hey, I can help you scale your business. I can
Yeah.
show you how to make money. I can show you how to put the systems in place to hire and train and recruit and retain people. But the reality is, when I get them in here, I'm like, listen, man, we got to work on the mindset, the spirituality, the
Yeah.
body, like all of
Yeah.
these things. It's a holistic approach. So it wasn't until I started to get the body being in balance right that my business started to really take off. And I always thought that if I figured out the business thing, the rest I'd have the time to take care of.
Right.
And it just never worked out that way.
Yeah, it's interesting how everything is interconnected and interrelated, right? You have an individual that may be very quote unquote successful in business by the financial accolades, but then you look at him in his personal life or his health and might be falling apart.
Yeah.
That's not true freedom or wealth. In
Yeah.
fact, you're incarcerated to what you've created for yourself, and now the business has become your slavery. You're enslaved into the business. How is it that you find these individuals? And when we're talking about freedom, I'd like to dive in a little bit deeper into that because our listeners, they're working on the trades. They spend a lot of time working on the business and in the business as well. But oftentimes we have this confusion that the more I put into the business, the more I'm going to get out of it. But you've talked about time. And what are some of the complexities you find with individuals that come into your world and they're just grinding away. They're grinding away, but they're not seeing better fruits or greater fruits in their marriage nor their business. What usually do you notice tends to keep them stuck, where they can't break through certain revenue levels? Have you noticed any patterns?
Yeah, I think that a lot of them that come to me are constantly chasing this idea of someday. Like someday I'll have the time to put the things in place that I need to put in place. In the meantime, they're just trying to prop everything up. They're running
Mm,
around spinning all the plates everywhere. They're trying to be all things to all people. And for the most time, the biggest thing is like they don't have the ability to what I would say is get up atop, on top of the trees and see the path forward because they're so stuck down in the woods and in the weeds that they just don't have the ability to even see like what's the right next step. They're
hmm.
willing to do the work, they're
Yeah.
willing to put in the effort, they're willing to strap the bags on, they're willing to go meet with the customers, do the proposals, pay for marketing, do the home shows, all the things. But the reality is like they just can't see through the thick of the chaos of the day to day to like know what is the path that I should be going on. And so if nothing else, that I mean that's one of the big things that I work with my coaching clients on is like I force them to pause long enough to
Mm,
climb up on top
yeah.
and look out in the distance and get a clear vision for where they're going. Most of my guys, they're just stuck in this day-to-day grind of I got to sell decks and collect checks. Sell
Mm,
decks, collect checks. They have no vision, no strategy for where they're actually going to go. And so as much as they're willing to hustle and grind, like that's only going to get you so far. At some point, you've got to stop. And where most of them get stuck is they just don't have a plan on where they're going to go. Talk 90 days, 1 year, 3 years
yeah.
out. Like they have no idea other than they're just going to try to sell as much work as they can, produce as much work as they can, hope there's some money and maybe some time at the end, and hope they're not broken when they get there. So I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest thing. They get stuck. They don't have a plan, and they definitely don't have a strategy to execute on that plan.
Yeah. That's so good. The plan is it's ultimately what you want to have in place in order to grow and scale, and sometimes it takes quite a bit of staying with it and being with it and getting real and raw about the situation, because oftentimes like stories are the drivers of the results that we have, right? And it isn't until you have a coach here like Chris who helps you slow down and stop time to be able to dissect the things that are creating the patterns that are coming out into the fruition in your fruits, which is something. What are some of the biggest lies that you find deck builders telling themselves about their business?
Oh man, this is a good one. So a lot of guys come to me because they're like, oh, there's no good help out there, and
Mm, yeah.
there's not enough leads out there either. And I'm like, bro, like I have an abundance of leads and I have an abundance of good people that are wanting to be a part of my team. And so this is where they have to take a good hard look, and I call it the man in the mirror. You got to look at the man in the mirror. Like if you're struggling to recruit really good talent and to retain them, my question for you is number one, are you a leader that people are attracted to, that they want
Yeah.
to follow?
Yeah.
And number two, do you have a business that's going somewhere that people get excited to be a part of? Right. And that's part of that vision. If you don't have a vision, you don't have a plan that you can communicate to people. And so I think one of the big stories that I know I did this for a long time is like, there's no good help. Nobody can
Yeah.
work as hard as me. Nobody can do what I can do. Well, the reality is like, I wasn't a leader worth following. I was chaotic. I wasn't investing in myself. I mean, I was about 30 pounds lighter when I started the journey. Like I
Wow.
looked like a meth head at the time. Like I was just burning myself to the ground trying to chase this dollar. And so I wasn't somebody that was worth following. And I certainly didn't have a plan that anybody else wanted to get on the bus with me and go to that destination of
Mm,
nowhere.
mhm.
Right. And so I think one of the big that's one of the biggest stories is like there's no good help and I lack leads. Like I promise you, if you're a leader worth following and you have a business that's going somewhere, not only will you attract people to your team, but you'll also attract abundance inside of the business. Over the last 5 years, my average project size has gone from about $25,000 to over $100,000. Where we sit today, Danny,
So
we
good.
have sold, I'm going to say only, but we've sold 40 projects this year in the deck business, and we're at just under $4.1 million. Do the math. That's an average of $100,000 per project.
Incredible.
So, and we also have an 80% close ratio on customers that start a design process with us. So if we sell somebody a design, which is $1,000 in my world, we close 80 to 90% of those people. So I have a very scientific way. People get excited about that. And so we attract abundance inside of our customers and our leads because we're an attractive company led by I'm gonna say it, an attractive dude, right? So
Yes.
as a
Yes.
leader, so to speak, you know.
Absolutely. And so, the business is a reflection of the leader.
Oh,
And
so good, man.
how you market is also a reflection of the confidence that the leader
Yeah,
has. And
yeah.
you brought something up here. Let's dive in a little bit more into the marketing side of things. What do you think is the biggest struggle with deck builders these days when it comes to marketing?
Um, so Billy, that's good because we've been talking a lot about that recently. Because I get a lot of guys that are like, "Hey, I need leads
Hmm.
immediately. I need them now. Like, I don't have any business coming through the doors." And so I think the biggest struggle is like they're unwilling to do the foundational work that it takes to really get the machine going. Like,
Mm.
sure, you can dump money into ads, and that's great. That's one strategy. But the foundation, in my mind, and you know better than me, Danny, but in my
Yeah.
mind, the foundation of a good business from a marketing standpoint is you've got to have a great brand, a cohesive brand. Like you need to, your website needs to be look good, your swag needs to look good, your trucks need to look good, your yard sign. Like I don't care if you're a one man show. When I was first starting off 25 years ago, I'd show up at people's house in my wrapped truck, and people would be like, "Oh, are you guys a franchise?" And to me, that meant that we
Mm-hmm.
looked a lot bigger than we were,
Yeah.
and it was literally just me. So foundational stuff like that, you've got to have a cohesive brand. You've got to have a solid website, and it's got to be driven. It's got to have SEO stuff that's backing it, and that's a longer play. And
Yeah.
a lot of guys are unwilling. They're going to get somebody to throw up a website. They're going to maybe even do it themselves, never touch it again after they do that, and then let's go dump some money into ads. Well,
Mm.
that's fine, but like that's going to be a quick cash burn to run out of money, right? So for me, I
Yeah.
think a big problem inside of that is like you got to do the foundational work. Yes, you can spend money on ads, and that helps get leads immediately, but you've got to have good brand, good reputation, get your Google My Business in place, get reviews, get your website up and running. Like those foundational pieces are so important to having that found. Just like a deck needs a super solid foundation,
Yeah.
you're not going to
Yeah.
go prop it up on some, on some 2x4s without any concrete or footings. Like you got to have the same thing inside of your marketing game.
So good. So good. And I would say branding also expands into how you take care of the lead. Like that experience when
Absolutely.
someone is giving you a call, how soon are you getting back to them? Is the phone ringing 5 times or 10 times before someone gets a hold of you, or do you have a professional admin assistant or a setter helping you out in the process? What's the biggest opportunity you see with deck builders these days when it comes to taking care of a lead?
Yeah, so you hit on a huge one for me. I am a stickler for making sure the phone gets answered.
Mm.
Like the reality is, if I call a service-based business to get something done, I've recently had my carpets cleaned at my house, a new lawn company that started working for me, and if I call the phone number and I don't get somebody right away, you know what I'm doing? I'm calling the next one on the Google list,
Right,
right? Like
right.
that's just if I'm right now calling you, that means I want to talk to somebody now. And so I think step number one in the experience, like you pointed out there, like you gotta answer the phone. And some guys will push back, like, oh, I can't do it, blah, blah, blah. I've got guys inside of the academy that are literally out building decks, they're running their sales calls, they're ordering them, they're doing everything. And they pay a small fee to a VA service to make
Hmm.
sure that that phone gets answered. Like
Yes.
that's the very first thing. And so I think there's huge opportunity with that. Is like step number one, like make sure the phone gets answered. I tell people all the time, like you can be in the top 1% of contractors if you just show up, clean up. I'm sorry, show up, do what you say you're going to do, and clean up after yourself. Like that's like top 1%. It's not hard.
Wow.
And for me, the first step in showing up is
Yeah.
answering the freaking phone.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
pay a lot of money to get leads sometimes, and you don't want to miss that opportunity. So
Man, that's so good. And it's fundamental. Let's go into the team building component here. You talk about leadership and being that leader that people aspire to work under, and team builder, being a team builder. You are a team builder. You've been able to step out fully from the operations day to day, and that's the Legacy Dex business. It's pretty much running on its own. What were some of the initial steps that you took that helped you get out of the operations? What did that look like for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, we already touched on the plan,
Yeah.
right? Like you got to have a super clear plan on where you're going. The next step, you got to have team members, right? Now, not to say that's the next step, but you've got to have a team if you're going to remove yourself from the day to day. And so, one of the things that we do, and I did personally, like this is, I live by example, is I had to get super clear about who I wanted on the team. And we can train people on the skills side of most things, but you know what you can't train them on? The values that they have, the
Yeah.
ethics that they have, who they are at the core. And so, culture is a big buzzword, right? Like we want to have a good culture and culture matters and all that. At the core of what culture is for me, culture is like who you are, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
the culture of my business is just an extension of who I am,
Mm.
right? If I was a jerk, my culture would be probably a bunch of jerks, right? The reality is, one of the first things we do is we get super clear about the culture. To create culture, you gotta extract the values of the leader or at least the organization.
Hmm.
And so for me, it starts with again a buzzword, core values.
Yeah.
But for me, our core values are all in. It's an acronym, all in,
Mm.
always achieving results. The people in my organization are always achieving results. L is lifelong learners, right? We
Mm.
don't have people inside of my organization that are not constantly expanding. It's a game of expansion. So when we're recruiting people, we're looking for people. Hey, do you listen to any podcasts? Have you attended any seminars recently? What's the last thing you learned in your life? So we're trying to find out, like, are you a lifelong learner? The next one is legacy focused.
Mm.
Legacy focused, right? How do you find out if somebody's legacy focused? If you send an interview question and ask somebody, hey, are you focused on your legacy? Of course I am. No, you ask people like, hey, tell me about your favorite childhood memory or the last family holiday event that you attended, and get people talking about what I believe is legacy, which is like starts with kind of like your family and stuff or childhood. And so lifelong learners, legacy focused. The I is impact and develop people. So
Mm.
we believe in a big part of it is impacting and developing people. And then last one is never accepting the status quo. So for me, to build a team of top performers, you really have to be super clear about what are the values of the leader of the organization, and then build a whole team of people like that. Because guess what? If you got a whole bunch of people that are all in, at least in my words for my organization, like they're going to be cheering me on to go out and build the academy while they're building Legacy Decks because I'm creating an opportunity for them inside of that. So that's a big part of what we do is just get super clear about like what are the values and hire a bunch of people that have those values. So, but again, it starts with the businessman,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
if your values are jacked up, we got to work on that first,
Yes.
and then we work on the business plan.
So good. So good. And when you do have core values that resonate with someone else, it's also easier to attract individuals just like them.
Yeah.
And do you find that you get employee referrals from your team, or do you go out to the marketplace and recruit individuals that are already out there?
So I would say it's a combination of both.
Okay.
We have a large group of transplants that live in this area where I'm at. Like it's a very popular place to relocate. And so I would say our referral pool of staff isn't as great as maybe an area where people like grew up and lived their whole life and they know
Hmm.
their whole whatever. So they don't have a ton of deep connections here. So but there's some of that goes on for sure. Whenever an opportunity goes up, that's the first place we go fishing is because like the people that work in our organization probably have friends that have similar values. And so that's one of the very first things that we do. So that's a huge insight from you for
Oh,
sure.
that's great. So, as far as your favorite tools for the trade, what are your tools running at that company? You would say, man, these are my top five or top three tools that I use on a day to day for my business. What would you recommend?
Um, Wow. So tools, I mean, for running the business, not like
Running the
actually
business, it could be,
building
yes,
the decks.
software, tech stack. Let's yeah, it's just a
Yeah,
quote.
tech stack. All right,
Yes.
perfect. Yeah, beautiful. So, and a lot of guys we work with don't have a lot of these in place, and so we have to do that. So, one of the very first things is you've got to have a software platform that you utilize for estimating. We actually have one particular platform that does our estimating and our project management, and that's JobTread. There's a lot of them out there. We were on Builder Trend for a long time, but JobTread I feel is very proactive and aggressive with bringing to market what we need,
Mm,
right? They're listening to us. And so I
yes.
know the owner, I know the founder personally, Eric Fortenberry, and he always wants to know, like, how can we make it better for you as a deck builder? And
Yeah.
he's also asking the plumbers and the painters and the landscapers, how can we make it better? So they've got a great thing going. They're constantly updating. From there, you've got to have a good CRM. So we have a particular one that we've built out on the Go High Level platform that
Nice.
we kind of white label for all of our members. But you got to have a CRM, a customer relationship manager, so that you can manage your pipeline, so that you can nurture leads. Even at the most basic level, at least have a spreadsheet, right? Like version one could be that, but you've got to have a way to keep track of all of the people that have contacted you to do business with. Let's see. From there, from CRM, we believe strongly that not only do you need to have that project management software,
Hmm.
you need to have a business management software.
Mm,
And there's a lot of different ones out there. We use a software called 90.io.
it's good.
And essentially, it's like the dashboard for the business. All of our main metrics, our KPIs in some people's language. What's our big plan for the quarter, the year, the
Hmm.
3 year out? And so we use that software. So you've got the project management, and then you've got the business management, the business operating system management. And then let's see, from there, um, boy, I mean, lately the thing that comes to mind, we use the heck out of Canva, right? So it's not
Yes.
really a software, but it's a it's a platform, if you will. But for design purposes and things like that, creating things on the fly in the office,
Mhm.
Canva is a real popular one that we use for what it's worth, for making stuff look cool to send out to your customers and things. So that'd probably be like the top five that come to mind right off the bat.
That's incredible. That's awesome. And then as far as AI, have you found any cool integrations or anything that you're innovating with currently or playing around with in your business or with your
Yeah,
clients?
so I created a custom GPT recently. I had to learn how to do that, but that is my sales trainer. It's my virtual sales trainer,
Wow.
and essentially, it has programmed into it who we are as a company, who our ideal client is, demographic, psychographic, geographic. What our philosophy is on sales. We're more of like an educate and let people buy from us
Yes.
versus like a hard closing, selling kind of like whatever. There's no wrong way, but that's our philosophy on it. Like, hey, we're going to educate people, walk them through an experience. And at the end of it, they're going to feel so comfortable and confident with us, they're going to buy from us. So I programmed all this stuff into Chat GPT, basically just having a verbal conversation with it. And then I uploaded some call recordings from my CRM because we've got call recordings. We upload the PDFs in there. So it kind of trains the GPT on how we respond to customers. I don't know if people know you can do this. I didn't know this until just recently, but you can train it to like how you answer questions and what the vocabulary is that you use. Like if we were in Australia, you could, the thing would have an accent where it'd say mate
Yes.
and things like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this sales virtual sales trainer has helped out. I just recently onboarded a new sales consultant, and the GPT was able to create some product knowledge trainings, like
Wow.
have a conversation with him, teach him about the decking we use, and then create some questions to quiz him at the end. He can also use it for doing role playing for sales calls, and you can tell the GPT, hey, don't go too easy on him this time. Like give him a little bit more hard time when he asks you about the budget. So the AI has been great. That's just one use case there, but I mean, you literally use it every single day.
That's
So
powerful. I love it. I love it. What we've done at Contractor Click, we've dumped our entire knowledge base, and we have integrations like within ClickUp itself. We're one of the largest power users in the Brain AI. They call it internally in ClickUp, which is cool. And we put all of our clients' information in there. We track month by month, and we can literally say, hey, based on the last 6 months and ad spend and leads and conversions, what's been the ROAS, the return on advertising spend, etc. Or we
yeah,
could we could look at all that data, which is super useful. And then for our internal team, we're completing our knowledge base, which means, hey, anything about anything marketing, you can go in there and use it. But that sells, the what you've got going on. That's awesome. That's incredible. I
Yeah.
have to check it out. What's the future hold for the deck industry?
The future for the deck industry, kind of some of the biggest things right now are alternative framing. So in the past, the only thing that most people framed out of was wood framing,
Hmm.
and just like decking has kind of moved away from the bulk of it being wood. Now there's still a lot of wood decking out there,
Yeah.
but most of it's going towards more sustainable, reusable with composites and PVCs and recycled products. But the framing is going the same way. So we've got aluminum, we've got steel, we've got composite framing now that's reinforced with fiberglass. I've even seen some concrete framing member
Wow.
products out there. Some hemp framing products out there. So I think a big thing is sustainability, and how do we, because wood people, we have my sales team meets with people every day. I just talked with one of my sales consultants earlier, and she's like, the customer has a 30-year-old deck, and I'm talking to them about steel, and they asked, well, hey, this deck lasts me 30 years. Like, why should I get steel framing?
Yeah.
The reality is wood from 30 years ago was way different than wood from
Yeah.
today. Like they clear cut forests so fast that stuff is not able to grow as long as it would normally in the past. So if you look at the grain pattern on wood from 30 years ago, a lot tighter grain pattern. Now it's really big because it just hasn't had its new growth. So wood rots really quick, and so I think that's one of the biggest things. I think another one is, the deck industry as a whole has been slower to adopt some of the technology. And so I think that as these owners start to shift, as these builders start to shift to be more owners, they're adopting technology and helping them scale their business better. So I think those are probably some of the biggest things that are shifting in the industry for us right now.
That's awesome. And team, if you're listening to this conversation here, we have Mr. Chris Breen with Legacy Decks Academy. He's empowering deck builders, deck company owners to grow and scale and find the freedom in their business by leveraging the business to get access to power and build a team so that they don't have to work in the business. Now, Chris, what message do you want to leave to our audience here? Someone that is looking to grow and scale their deck company. What's your last word here and message?
Yeah, super simple, guys. Like, you have got to work on the business man or woman
Mm,
before the business plan. Like, you have got to get to a place where you are in power, like Danny talks about. And to do that, you've got to work on your body, your mindset, your
yes.
relationships. All of these things are going to make you more attractive as a leader. It's going to attract people to your team. It's going to attract abundance to your business, marketing leads, like the whole nine yards. So, guys, super simple. Work on the business man before the business plan, and that's the thing that put me to a place where things are clicking for me real well. So.
So good, so good. You heard it from the man himself. And Chris, where can people find more information about your academy and your coaching program?
Yeah, so easy to find, legacydecksacademy.com. Also on Instagram, Legacy Decks Academy. You can look me up personally at official Chris Breen on Instagram. So pretty
Excellent.
easy. Yep.
Excellent. Make sure you check out Legacy Decks Academy on Instagram. Check out their website and connect with Chris Breen. It's been an honor having you in this conversation, brother, and great to have you again. Any listeners, make sure that you subscribe on that channel right here, the Contractor Click podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening to us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment. Let us know how you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you for listening in. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.